Welcome back to another fully engaged podcast episode of the Wild Edible World podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Michael.
And I am Steve. We are out in nature once again. It's a beautiful but balmy, what is it, Wednesday?
Solstice.
Yeah, ooh, solstice.
Yeah, balmy solstice. A happy
Wow.
solstice, everybody. So how fortuitous that we should come together upon this day.
Honestly, it's pretty picturesque out here.
Oh, it's the sunbeams coming through the
Yeah.
leaves. Yeah, no, it's...
That early evening sunbeams coming through the leaves, and oh man, we got all sorts of nature in front of us.
The bugs aren't super gnarly.
Oh yeah, they're not to that point yet, so that's great.
The flowers are blooming. The milkweed is supple.
Ugh.
And the trees are fully leaved out.
Give me more.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
But we're here to talk to you guys about milkweed today. There's several different kinds. Mostly we'll be referring to and tasting common milkweed.
Yeah.
The typical plant that you're going to find taking over vacant farm areas and in your neighborhood pond areas, et cetera, et cetera. But there are a few different edible species.
Sure.
In general, they grow pretty succulently, really thick tips, or really thick stalks, rather, and they grow pretty quickly. So the common milkweed can get anywhere between, I think, like 5-6 feet tall, depending on like the sun exposure and how hoppy it is.
Sure.
And it is a very aggressive colonizer. So oftentimes, it's called a milkweed. We don't really like that word that much, but it is a weed. It grows like one, that's for sure.
Yeah, big colonies, big groups.
So you'll probably recognize that from its seeding pattern, that's seed dispersal rate, and how many it makes and how it's able to throw them across such long distances. So I think milkweed is, out of all the things we've done so far, one of the more recognizable and I think most frequently encountered plants that people will know when we're talking about it.
Definitely.
But I think it's still worth describing a little bit how it can look from top to bottom. It's got these really awesome, broccoli-like flower bud heads that open up to these really cool flowers that can be anywhere, a variety of different colors, from pink to orange to white. So beyond that, it's opposite leafing. They kind of have a channeled stem a little bit, but what would you call it, round or square?
A little bit of both,
It's
a rounded edge square.
And so that's why I said it's not. It's kind of channeled or whatever, but yeah, it's somewhat square. And then it has this really milky sap that comes out of the plant anytime you break the surface material.
Sure.
So that's probably also where it gets its name, milk, in the milkweed.
That's exactly why it gets its name, milk.
Yeah.
That rubber, that latexy film. Most people are going to associate milkweed with monarchs.
Of course.
I think that's the big one, the big name that people recognize, and that's because it's like the host plant for a couple different species, but monarchs like the most famous, the most popular, I guess, just because of the huge migration from Mexico to here to wherever the hell else they go.
It's also the state butterfly.
Yeah, definitely.
Of Illinois. So
I wonder if anyone else has got that. I wonder if there's a bunch of people with monarchs,
probably
just hogging all the states' monarchs.
Probably
share the states.
Yeah.
Jeez, what are you doing?
But so that latex is toxic. Honestly, it's part of why the milkweed butterfly and caterpillar consume that plant. It is creating itself a toxic body that prevents it from being predated upon by other animals. However, it's on this show because it's a delicious vegetable as well.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as it's cooked, we got no probs.
Yep. Cooked with preparation. It's edible with preparation. And that preparation is honestly super, super easy. I have a pot of water boiling here off to the side with just a couple handfuls or literally just one handful that I grabbed from a local park. So side note, always collect from places of abundancy. We say that, almost every single episode on this show, but always make sure that you're not extracting resources from your environment, but you're with it. you're a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that includes sharing the stuff that we find outside. So I collected 1 or 2 buds from a couple plants that already had mature flowers, and we're still developing new ones. And these are just in the perfect stage, like right before they're flowering.
Sure.
But you can eat this plant in a variety of ways.
Yeah, when they're young, you can eat the shoots. When the leaves are still kind of clasped on that shoot is when they're best, when they're most tender. But of course, like Michael said, you want to make sure you're only taking what you're actually going to use, and then saving some for the fellas, for the butterflies and whatnot.
Yeah, and for a conservation note, whenever you are collecting the young shoots of the plant, that is actually in and of itself reciprocal harvesting, because whenever you break that plant, it does create 2 new shoots right at that location. It continues sprouting new growth, so it's actually providing younger plant growth later on in the season, which the caterpillars and the monarchs prefer.
Yeah.
So it's able to like provide a longer host season as well.
Yeah.
As also providing us really delicious and nutritious food. So all those parts of the plants are edible, prepared the same way. You can boil them for about 5 minutes, or I prefer steaming them for 5 minutes as well. So it's just needs that hot water interaction.
I've seen a couple different recipes where people take those buds that you have and almost like stir fry them.
Absolutely.
So I guess if you had enough steam going on, that's going to tenderize those a bit. That would be a great option.
Yep. Yeah, and perhaps there's a different preparation for the flower buds themselves, because I know the flowers, I believe, are edible raw.
Yeah.
So the buds are probably much safer. I like to steam them a little bit, but I don't cook them any further than that. So how we'll share them on the second part of the episode is just like a drizzle of hickory oil and salt, and that's really how I like sharing them and how I've enjoyed them for the most part.
Are we going to do that koji salt?
We could do the koji salt. We could shout out Wade from Fox Among Bears, the koji wizard. We're working on getting an episode from him for sure. I guess I still have some of that stuff in my bag. We could absolutely do that.
Definitely.
Like one of each. I got some seaweed salt here too that we could try out. That's a little bit fun.
Variety.
Yeah. Like kind of a throwback to Laurel, and a little bit of Oregon flavor with our central country milkweed. But
so some identifying things, right? So you mentioned the opposite leaves. They're obviously shoots.
They're very fuzzy.
Yeah, fuzzy undersides of the leaves. A harvesting tip, a hollow stem is what you're looking for.
Yep.
And that milky substance.
Sure. There are there aren't toxic lookalikes, but there are lookalikes that taste very bad.
Sure.
So dogbane. Also, which is an awesome plant in and of itself.
Such
it's
a good plant.
Incredible pollinator supporter, and it's great for fiber.
Yeah, cordage.
Cordage, exactly. Yeah. So I'm not the specifics on how to identify them at a young stage are pretty freaking difficult. So the best thing you want to do is look in the surrounding environment and try to find the old dead stalks of last year's dogbane, because they look throughout their entire life very similar, except for dogbane typically has a very red stem. Very early on in the year, it's green, unfortunately.
And then it doesn't have a hollow stem.
It does. Yeah, it's thick, but it also has that milky substance. Yeah. But you're correct. It is filled in stem. And they set out secondary branches in between the leaves. So later on in the year, you can see that.
But they don't pod.
They do pod.
They do?
They do. Yeah, so they're like long pods.
But not like...
Are we talking about the same thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Like the seed pods?
We'll check that.
With the hairy substance, it's got they have fluffy seed dispersal. They have the same seed dispersal technology, which
That's
is part of why I've eaten dogbane.
Gross.
It sucks.
Yeah,
it super sucks, and it's not it's not toxic. So it's one of the safe times I've felt safe making a mistake like that. Normally, I would never. Sure. But I was pretty sure I had milkweed because I could see the stalks. And some of them still had seed pods. They're longer, they're thinner. So I thought it was swamp milkweed, which has longer, thinner pods.
Sure.
and this was at a like a retention pond area, so it was very swampy.
Did you cook them? Did you go through all that trouble?
I cooked them,
Fuck.
and it was bitter, and so I cooked them longer, and they were still bitter, and it is like awfully bitter.
Yeah.
So Alan Burgo, the forager chef, has a whole story, a whole article on this. I believe it's part of his milkweed article where he talks about making what he thought was milkweed soup. Ooh. And it was dogbane soup. And then he was like, but it's not toxic. They still forced it down. It tasted so bad, and they still like drank all the soup, which I after tasting it, cannot imagine doing. Mm-hmm. It is like gag-worthy bitter. It is very, very bad. And I try to acclimate my palate towards bitter flavors a little bit more. I mean, I preach about that all the time. Mm-hmm. So that is a mistake you can make, but unfortunately, it's not that big of a deal. Just be wary of that. Milkweed does taste very good. Yeah. It's a very delicious vegetable. So
I'm very excited to give it a go here.
Yeah, with that, we'll take our break, and then when we come back, we'll not munch on some.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
Cool.
Sigh.
Well, what's wrong, buddy?
Well, I just realized this mushroom supplement I bought isn't actually made with mushrooms. It's made with something called myceliated grain?
Myceliated grain?
Oh, no!
I'm sorry to tell you, buddy, but myceliated grain is a sure sign of a poor quality mushroom supplement.
Well, dang. I wanted mushrooms, not brown rice. What should I do?
Well, you should support a small batch producer from right here in the Midwest. Keweenaw Apothecary.
Keweenaw Apothecary? Tell me more.
Keweenaw Apothecary specializes in high-quality mushroom extracts from Michigan, and they always use real mushrooms, never myceliated grain.
That sounds like exactly what I've been looking for. Where can I order?
Well, you can find them at keweenawapothecary.etsy.com. That's KEWEENAW apothecary.etsy.com. Be sure to read their many excellent reviews.
Thanks, buddy. I don't want no low-quality mushroom products from a factory. I want Keweenaw Apothecary.
Wowie wow! Oh, hey, Steve.
Oh, hey, Mike.
Well, what's wrong, buddy?
Well, I just got this new water bottle, but it just looks so plain.
Well, have I got the store for you. Introducing the Wild Edible World Podcast Merch Store.
Wowie wow!
It's the merch store where you can get all of your favorite podcasts merch for all your decorating purposes.
How do I find that?
Go to wildedibleworldpod.shopify.com or go to any of our Instagram and media accounts and view the link in the bio.
Wowie wow!
Okay, we're back from our break on the Wild Edible World. Thanks for coming back with us.
Welcome back. We missed you so much.
So, we have some milkweed here to taste. I have this garnished with a little bit of hickory nut oil, which is from Forager's Harvest. That is Sam Thayer's online store, basically. I think they have a storefront too. But yeah, you can get a bunch of really cool shit from there. But this is one of my favorite products of theirs, the hickory nut oil, and then a little bit of seaweed salt. We've already had one, so these are semi-genuine reactions. Right off the bat, there's almost like a buttery flavor to them.
That hickory nut oil is outrageous.
Yeah,
man.
I love it.
Not that the milkweed buds aren't equally outrageous, but it does. It gives it like a buttery texture.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're kind of...
Damn, that seaweed salt.
Right?
Fuck.
I know, and it's kind of funny a concept to me, too, because it's just like salty salt.
Yeah.
But
salt of the sea.
Yeah, if it's like, okay, that's kind of redundant, but it is quite delicious. I'm going to have one more. Maybe
all right. Yeah, why not?
So people like to compare it to broccoli. I would say the texture is of well-cooked broccoli, but the flavor is milkweed.
The flavor, it's for sure
almost
its
like
own.
Vegetal popcorn. I don't know.
It reminds me of something.
Right?
Like, it's almost like if broccoli hung out with corn for too long and had a little bit of that sweetness, you know? But it's, oh man, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I should probably think of better description, better buzzwords for all you restaurant folk out there.
No, same, yeah.
Sizzle words.
Sizzle words.
That's what we used to say at Applebee's.
Okay.
Fuck Applebee's, by the way. But this stuff is delicious.
Yeah, those are delicious. My favorite way to use them is just as like a normal vegetable side. Like
Sure.
across from a pork chop, you got me in heaven. And then, but you could put them in, you could make a really interesting vegan tacos with this, I think, too.
Oh, absolutely. The texture of that is just unique.
Got a lot of bite to it, but it's soft and giving, but full flavored. I would say, so that's not as we discussed earlier, that's not the only edible part of the milkweed. After the flowers, you're going to have the seed pods, right? And so a lot of people are familiar with eating the seed pods, too.
Yeah. I've never had that.
They're really fun, so we'll have to eat that too.
Yeah.
Late and probably a couple more weeks. But so the way milkweed pods look, they have that kind of as ribbing, I guess,
studded.
or studded. They're jeweled.
Yeah.
So they have these little kind of edges to them, but they are these nice succulent pods. And the rule of thumb that you want to get for the milkweed pods, the seed pods, is 1.5 to 2 inches big. So size is not necessarily the rule for milkweed pods, because obviously there are going to be some small ones later on in the season.
There's also some massive.
And there's going to be some massive ones that only grow that big in like a day or two. So it's really kind of checking the development of the seeds on the inside.
Sure.
So as long as you have like perfect silky white everything on the inside.
Yeah, you don't have seeds that have developed.
Correct.
Exactly,
Yeah.
like the actual full seeds.
And at that point, if the seeds have developed, you can use the pod as a really cool vessel.
Yeah.
So you can take the seeds out and then blanch the seed pods and then, make like a jalapeno popper or something, like stuff them with cream cheese. And that way you can get something sizable. But unfortunately, you're missing out on all that silky goodness on the inside whenever it is undeveloped and it's really immature. It's like the coolest vegan cheese you've ever had.
Get out of here!
I swear
What does the actual pod taste like? Like the husk of the pod, the outer portion.
Like green beans.
Oh,
yeah.
I like green beans.
So kind of green beanie, a touch of bitterness, kind of like the flower heads. But it's really all about that kind of creamy inner silk. It's really interesting.
I didn't taste any bitterness, but maybe that's the salt.
So I had one of the biggest ones.
Okay.
So that was just like, that could have cooked maybe 30 seconds to a minute more.
Sure. Those are perfectly cooked, by the way. For having like a little camp stove, that shit was delicious.
Yeah, so I just had them on. That's how easy this is, folks. So, I mean, I have a camp stove, a pot of water, a steaming basket. I just grabbed all this stuff from my apartment, brought it out here, and we're in the middle of the woods cooking milkweed.
Yeah.
Just steamed it for 5. I think it was like on the edge of 6 minutes. But like I said, one of them was a bit bigger, so that just like I was on the cusp of it. But thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. Oh, those are great.
How I like to cook the milkweed pods is you can slice them up into little discs.
Sure.
And that's really fun to like bread and fry that way, or you can just saute them after blanching them first, of course. So you want to do that with the pods for sure. And honestly, they're good whole as well, breaded and fried. Oh, pickled?
No.
Y'all, pickled milkweed pods? Insane. Very popular ingredient that I feel like I've had several times a year because I go to the Midwest Wild Harvest Festival and I go to the Great Lakes Foragers Gathering. I did not expect them to be a part of our meals at the Great Lakes Foragers Gathering, but they were an ingredient in one of the meals, and I was like, ooh, dang. I think it was a curry. It was in a curry. So, blast me into space.
So, I love curry. So.
I know. I just noticed that I have green curry ingredients in the cabinet, and I'm trying to think of how I can make. Honestly, I could probably make like a milkweed flower bud green curry.
For sure.
How fire would that be?
That would be so delicious.
My guy.
And then once the pods get a little bit older, they have plenty of uses, not just edibly, but we have a observer here today watching our recording just by chance. What was your name? Mick? Matt. Okay, Matt told us when he's out, hunting or doing his thing, he uses the actual seed pod. So the older seed pod of a milkweed plant is brown and tough on the exterior, and that's you know that the seeds are ready to go. Once you throw those, it's almost feathery texture seed pods, and it's amazing how well they carry and how you can see every little bit of the wind.
Oh, the slightest bit. Yeah.
So that's another great use for the seed pods there. If you're not, if you catch them too late to eat them,
good fire starting as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, honestly, so there's probably we should have looked up how many seeds there are per head, but
just a bunch.
There's a ton.
1 metric bunch.
So you can easily, if you are interested in trying this out as a food source, and also supporting your local pollinators, it is so easy to just grab one mature pod on a plant, and have a whole garden full of milkweed next year. And that way you've planted it, for sure that it's not going to be bitter, terrible tasting dogbane. But it's super easy to propagate. Just make sure that it's got kind of good full sun and a little bit of water. It doesn't survive in the driest of dry spots, but it loves the sun.
Yeah, that's actually a great scouting tip for this. Is it likes the open fields and edges of forests. It's not going to be in the under canopy of a forest. It'll be more out in the open.
Absolutely, on the edges of the prairies or the full prairie itself.
Sure.
I find the ones I collected today were nearby a local pond, so they were intentionally planted, I believe.
Sure.
But definitely. So yeah, Matt with the assist here had 226 seeds in each pod.
Wow.
So on an average, so it's very
it's a lot of milkweed.
Very productive,
that's
little
a lot
plant.
of delicious buds next year.
Seriously.
Speaking of next year, milkweed actually is biannual. Well, not biannual with its seed production, but it most likely, unless you have a primo spot, isn't going to flower that next year. That second year is when it starts to kick in with the flowers. This is just stuff that I figured while I was researching. But milkweed pot. So you want to give yourself a little bit of time before those monarchs come to set in. So you want that plant to get established because they are just ravenous.
Oh, yeah.
They'll eat it down to a main stem and nothing in overnight, a day or two. They have just voracious appetites because they trying to fly back to Mexico.
Yeah.
Don't you want to go to Mexico?
Yeah, I do. I've never been.
Better start eating some milkweed, bud.
Yeah. I'm building up my energy.
But an established plant, a plant that's been there for a long time or that has at least had, that time to get established can get eaten down to those nubs and still grow back the next year, still do great things. So, yeah. Another tip. Give yourself some time if you're purchasing it from a native plant sale or something along those lines.
Yeah, definitely.
Give it some time.
With that, I want to mention one more thing that we need to make sure that you check the undersides of the leaves and the buds that you're collecting for any, just make sure that you're especially checking them thoroughly for any sort of plants, insects.
Yeah.
You're looking for the plant. But the milkweed eggs, they lay them on the underside of the leaves. So if you are collecting the early sprouts, make sure that, you're just checking those leaves real quick. For monarch eggs, that's totally what I meant to say. And then you also have the milkweed beetles that can be all up in your flower buds. So check for those because they are kind of a nuisance, but they are an important pollinator and a native species. And this is one of the host plants for them. It's a host plant for many, many species of insects. Monarch is just the most banging one.
Yeah, and if you don't know what a monarch egg looks like, Google it, you little goose.
Google it. They're really, really small. They're light green. They're super,
tiny.
super tiny. So, it's definitely look that up if that's something you should be concerned about. So, with that, I think we'll close out our second half of the episode and wish you all a very milky weed.
Yeah.
And a happy solstice. And we love you guys. And thanks so much for listening to the show. We have a lot of cool merch coming your way.
And some hot sauce.
We have some hot sauce that we are getting prepared to release for you guys. I have almost annihilated an entire bottle by myself. It is very, very good. It is a fermented ramp hot sauce. Medium heat. So for all our baby sauce enjoyers, unfortunately, you're going to have to level
water
up.
It down a little bit. Just
gotta level up. Well, honestly, and then here's the thing.
Make yourself a little aioli. Or...
All right, if I can get on the soapbox a little bit about the hot sauce, it's actually great with food. So mix it into like a breakfast burrito. You're going to get all that rampy funk and a little bit of that truffle salt to it. It's a really awesome complex sauce. Just when it's like, tasting it, it's super zippy.
Sure.
But mixed with food, it really kind of mixes very, very, very well. So if you like hot sauce, but you're still a mild sauce enjoyer, I would suggest you definitely try it. But it's not for sale yet. Just reach out to us and we'll try to figure out how we can get it to you. If you hear this soon, we'll still sell it to you. So we'll work on a real ad for it soon. But we love you guys.
Somehow, that's for sure.
Bye.
Bye.